Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast, Possibilists. And now we have Nigel Clayton here. And by the way, I know what you are thinking about because he is a public certified public accountant. But yes, I know he does not have the look of a traditional certified public accountant. Nigel, how are you?
I'm doing great. Just to let you know, I am a retired certified public accountant. I owned my own practice for 31 years, but I sold it in January of 2020.
No, and that is amazing because Nigel has a great story. When we first met, we were talking about some perceptions on entrepreneurship, on the founders, startup founders, on what it is success, and he's been working on a very interesting topic. We are going to talk about that. It is success, but on another level of consciousness. We are going to talk about that. But first, Nigel, please tell us about a bit about yourself. Who is Nigel? What do you do for a living?
Well, like I said, I sold my CPA practice in January 2020, but I've also been coaching and mentoring the same clients, which are typically small entrepreneurial business owners, for 25 years. I've also been doing coaching and mentoring. So I mentor them on a framework that came out of my book entitled From Egopreneur to Ultrapreneur, that's on Amazon. And it's a framework that helps people tell them whether or not the decision they're going to make or the action they're going to take is authentic to them and will get them to where they say they want to go. It's not a one size fits all linear process. It's a framework. I just help them understand how the framework works and they fill in the framework. And then I've been coaching people since 2000. I am a master certified coach through the International Coaching Federation, which, if you don't know what that means, the ICF is the oldest and largest professional coaching credentialing organization in the world. If very large corporations or C.P.A. firms are looking for coaches, that's where they look because they consider it the gold standard. And I got the most advanced credential that they have. So, but I've been working with entrepreneurs, and I love entrepreneurs because they're a little crazy, but they're not boring. So I don't like boring.
No, totally agree with you. And by the way, that concept, first of all, of egopreneur, I like the way that sounds because I understand that at some moment, at some time in my life, I was a full egopreneur style. But something has to happen, I think, to our lives that it invites us to see the world in a different way. So first of all, I would love to hear about your own story and then about what you think that egopreneur is. But what is your story related to what made you make this shift of mindset? If it was any situation, event, something that you went through, and you say, oh, okay, life is more than just some material success. What happened about your life?
Well, I think you're talking about CPA to coaching.
Yes.
And when I had my CPA firm, again, I was working with small entrepreneurial business owners. Most of them didn't understand what they'd gotten themselves into. Most of them didn't have a very comprehensive understanding of business. So I would help them with the tangible parts of business, help them understand what was really going on in their business and what things were not going to help them get to where they wanted to go. And then eventually, after I got them hanging off of a cliff, getting then I would maybe put together a business plan that would, reach the goals that they really wanted. But what kept happening is they only went a certain way, a certain part of it, and then they'd get stuck and they'd stop. And once they got to the point where they felt like they were really out of their comfort zone, they'd kind of freak out and feel like, I don't know where we're going. Even though they rationally understood the business plan, they didn't feel like they were in control. And so I was looking for something to help them understand how to make their own decisions and feel comfortable and confident that they could make the decisions they needed to make to get to where they wanted to go. And somehow I found myself in coaching classes in 2000. I don't even remember how I got there, but I thought, well, I'll see what this is like and see if it's useful. And that became a very useful tool. So with that, I could help them with the intangible. Also, when I talked to them about, I noticed that their perspective on the entrepreneurial business was not really true. And I'd say, no, you need to look at it this way. And the first time I did that was the first time I consciously realized I was looking at it that way. But it was very apparent to me that I'd been looking at it that way for some time because it just came out. And but when I told them that, look at it this way, they kind of looked at me like, when you talk to your dog, they said, we don't understand what you're talking about, Nigel. And
Yes.
I said, well, just listen to me. And after a while, they kept insisting that I write a book. That's why I wrote my book, From Egopreneur to Ultrapreneur, because I resisted doing it for a year and a half or two. I said, I'm not an author. Just listen to me. Well, when I started writing the book, I realized I was way up here with the concepts that I have in the book, and they were way down. So when I wrote the book, I wrote it so that it was very simple to read, but it's very powerful. It's it's just a paperback, but I wanted it to be small so that they could read it all in one sitting. And then I said, then we'll talk about it, and I'll
Yeah.
go into everything. So I think I wrote it in '01 or '02 or somewhere around there, and then I updated it in 2012, and it's continued to expand since then. And that's why I give a free intro workshop, not every month, but a lot of
Yes.
months.
And by the
Um,
way, to invite everyone to follow Nigel, we are going to share with you where you can know about him and about these workshops and to be participating in these events. But by the way, how would you define what is or who is an egopreneur? And if you can give us, please, a couple of examples of or someone who is an egopreneur.
well, the reason I called it egopreneur is I looked at basically three stages of the entrepreneurship: egopreneur, entrepreneur, and ultrapreneur. So, egopreneur, the reason I call it egopreneur is because most people have to have an ego to start an entrepreneurial business, because even back in the 90s, they had a 90 or a 60% failure rate, you know. So you've got to have the ego to say, well, I'm not going to be one of those. I'm going to be one of the success. And you also hear, once they start a business, it's my business. There's a lot of me, my, I, and it gives them the courage to go forward with that ego somewhat there. But what happens eventually is that ego wants to hold on to everything, and it becomes a control freak, which stops them from growing. So you see, they get bigger and bigger, but they're still in control of everything. Everything has to go through them. They have to make every decision. So even though they give somebody, you know, I want you to be in charge of this, they can't really do anything because they make all the decisions. So that ego stops them from growing at some point. So they have to get away from that being into control and them being the center of everything. And then they go to really what I call the entrepreneur, which is the same as the egopreneur, but it's bigger. So there's more people, there's more things, but they haven't done anything about systematizing. Usually, the only systems that are in place are in the entrepreneur's head, and he doesn't communicate to where it can be seen by everybody and he's again in charge of it. So going from egopreneur to entrepreneur, they've just created a bigger company, but it's got more chaos in it than ever before. So I want to get them to the ultrapreneur. And the ultrapreneur is the entrepreneur that has finally realized they can't be the control of everything. They've got to have some kind of system that everybody looks at, including themselves, because a lot of times they'll put a system in and then they won't follow it, which screws everything up. And the entrepreneur is doing what they love to do most of the time, and they've got other people that love doing what they don't love to do. But it's all in a self-policing system, so that everything connects to everything. And so if something goes wrong, it's very easy to find what's going on wrong.
Okay, and related, for example, to the concept of success, how different is for the egopreneur and for the ultrapreneur the concept or the mindset required to have a different vision of what success is?
Well, success to me is personal. It's whatever it means to everybody, every one person individually. So most of my clients weren't money driven. That wasn't the first driver. It was more, I want to live the life that I want to live. I want to be doing what I'm passionate about on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, moment-to-moment basis. So it was more of a purpose-driven than a money-driven thing that they were looking at. Like, I want to help these people because this is something I had to go through, and I want to help them get through it a lot easier and in a much nicer way than I had to go through it. Stuff like that. Something that was really, really important to them, that was a really big part of them.
It's because one of the things I was thinking about, maybe it is related to this, or maybe it is a topic just aligned, but not directly into what you've been working in. It is related to health, health with an integral perspective, and success with maybe, I'm going to say, a holistic or an integral approach, which means that there was a time when I used to believe or to buy that concept of success related to material success, on mostly material success, and to compete and to win. And when you grow in an environment that pushes you the top of your competence to just win, to compete and win, then there comes a time when you say, okay, but what is the point of just competing and winning? And what is the point of just accumulating material wealth if, first of all, this is a life that is going to end, and I'm going to leave this world empty-handed. So what is the point? And the other thing it is that okay, to compete and win into what? I mean, this life is about evolution. It is about learning. It is about getting along with others. So why compete and win while you are destroying others? And so something started to happen in my mind. But just to ask you, Ultrapreneur has to do anything with this concept, or it is just it is another way of expanding your vision and your mindset?
Well, the way I look at it is, the reason so many of us are money driven is because our societies pushes that way. You know, there's a hierarchy where money and fame are at the top. And so the people that are looked at as being the winners are the ones that make the most money or have the most fame. Um, so I guess it all comes down to, how much money do you need to have the life that you want? It's it's like my brother. My brother once, when he was 19, went to work for a tile company, and they did kitchen and bathroom tile. And they said, if you sell a certain amount of product in the first month, you can stay and be a salesman as long as you keep doing that for a while. Well, he did it in the first week. He didn't know anything about tile, but I asked him, well, how did you sell these? He said, I just listened to what they want and I gave it to him. Well, 10 years later, he was in charge of 5 states in the Northwestern United States and all the locations they had in those states. But he was overweight. He had high blood pressure. He bit all of his fingernails off, and his doctor said, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're not going to live to be 30. He was 29. And I said to him, so what are you working so hard for? He said, I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30. And then I said, what are you going to do with this $1 million? He said, I don't know. I said, so you're killing yourself to get this money and you don't know why. I
What
said,
for?
yeah, you don't know why you're doing it. And I said, I need you to tell me why you're doing that. And he said, I don't know. And he got all pissed off and he left. 3 days later, he came back and he said, respect. If I'm a millionaire, people will respect me. And I said, will they if you're not? And he thought about it for a couple of days and he quit his job. And he went back where I had gone to high school and college in Arizona. He moved to Tucson, didn't have a job, had a family and kids. And he spent the rest of his life, he died 2 years ago. He spent the rest of his life driving a truck, wearing cowboy boots, was happy as hell. And when I went to his funeral, there were so many people there that respected him.
Yes, no, totally get it. Will you say that one way of defining the concept of an entrepreneur, or what an entrepreneur is, it is related to a purpose-driven person instead of a money-driven, that it is focused on some way of a systems thinking, way of seeing life, and not just a mechanical, linear way of a mindset?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's usually something that somebody's experienced and wants to help other people, or it's something that had a really big impact on their lives. It's something that's so deep in them, that's what becomes their purpose. So
Okay.
for me, um, I was born in England. My parents are English, and but they got divorced when I was 5, and at 7 I was taken out of the English school system. At that time, when you were 11 years old, you had to take a test. Depending on how you graded on the test, you were put in one of 3 categories. If you did really well, you went to a school and then you could eventually go to college. If you did medium, you went to a technical school, and if you did really badly, you went to a trade school and got out and was an apprentice at 14 years old. Well, the friends that I had in England, most of them failed it. I came from a very small town, rolling hills, lots of sheep, and we had 2 shoe factories. And when I went back one summer, most of them, they were 17 or 18 years old, had been out of school for 3 or 4 years, working in the shoe factories, doing the same thing, and they were going to be doing the same menial thing for the next 30 or so years. And they were trapped because once you got put into that one category, you couldn't move to another one. Most of them were, well, all of them were married. Most of them had 1 kid, and the majority had 2 kids. And I'm 17 and I'm going, oh my God, I can't even imagine being in their position. And they're totally trapped in the system. And they're never going to get out of it. And so freedom became a really big thing for me, independence and freedom. And becoming an entrepreneur eventually was me trying other places and working for other people after I got out of college, but just feeling like I'm going to be trapped in something that I won't be able to get out. And so the most independent freedom place for me in America was being an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs on this side of the spectrum where you get to determine what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to do it. If you work for somebody else, let's say you work for a big company, somebody's there telling you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. That did not work well with me.
No, totally. And looking at the concepts of egopreneur and ultrapreneur, I also relate them to how much freedom you are really pursuing in your life, because an egopreneur is not really free. It is a slave of its own ego. And I guess the ultrapreneur is that one who is actually pursuing real freedom, but from the perspective of evolving himself or herself, right?
Yeah, and I help them really go beyond the usual and ordinary, because so many of the people that I met that were going to, they were going to be, or they were entrepreneurs, kept working like they were working for somebody else,
Or
and
even more.
yeah, and a lot more. And I said, well, what would make this more fun for you? Most people say, what would you have to do to make more money? Well, that's not how I looked. I said, what would make this more fun for you? Because every class I took in school, every job that I had that I was having fun in, I did really well in it. I got good grades, or I did a really good job. If I wasn't having fun, eventually I didn't care, because it was just not me, right? So helping people look at, what did you really expect this to be? Just like working for somebody else? I mean, if that's all you're creating, you've just created a job, another job, with the worst boss you were ever going to have, yourself.
Totally agree. No, that is another great concept to integrate to the already concept of entrepreneur, the fun part of it, that a lot of entrepreneurs really forget during their lifetime. They start kind of having fun, and then something happens during the way, and then they are stressed, they are unhappy. They don't get up with that same passion that they used to get up every morning when they were starting, and that they just lose the fun. That's it. And the other thing, I was looking at some of the information related to you, and I really like the way you use the word harmony instead of balance. And I think it has a lot to do with freedom and with fun, with having fun. But I would love to ask you, why do you prefer to use the word harmony instead of balance?
Well, there's always times in our life where we have to spend more time on some part of our life, which means we're going to spend less time on another part. Balance to me says we're doing it equally. Okay. Well, if we have to spend more time on our job because of, we're putting something new out, or something's going to happen that we're getting a new client or something, or like when I was a CPA, I had to spend a lot more time in my job when it was tax season. So I was working many times 7 days a week. Well, there's no balance there. But if it's harmonious with the rest of your life, like your family supports you and they're okay, and they realize for the first 3 months you're going to be working 7 days a week, then it doesn't matter that it's balanced. So something can be balanced but not in harmony,
Yes.
but it can be in harmony and not be balanced.
No, totally. And the other day I was talking to somebody and I was telling to him that chaos is also really fun. And, actually, the personal evolution comes from chaos, not from balance. So it is okay to have a certain level of chaos and a certain level of balance. But without chaos, what a boring life we will have, don't you think?
Yeah, um, I think chaos is good to a certain degree, but I think when you have something test you, that's always good. You have something that like you've never done before, and it really takes you out of your comfort zone, because I think the only time we really grow is when we're out of our comfort zone. Because when we're in a comfort zone, we're comfortable, and it's like we're not really growing. We're kind of like sitting on the couch eating potato chips. But if we're out of the comfort zone and we're doing something that we've never experienced, the unknown is there. And that's where we learn a lot more about ourselves, is in the unknown.
Yes.
And so challenges, I think, are great. And I've been given so many challenges in my career. But it also helps with what your perspective is on why we're here. My perspective is that we're all on this planet to help each other. Because if we weren't, we'd all be on our own planet by ourselves. And we're not. We're all on this planet. So to me, the purpose of this crazy life, and you got it, when you look at it, it's crazy. We're here for a while and then poof, we're gone. I mean,
Yes.
to me, it's like a place where things can happen that help us learn more about ourselves. And to me, the more we learn about ourselves, the more successful we'll be with whatever success means to us.
Totally agree. And the other thing related to this is that in my case, there was this time I was very young, but I watched this movie, The Genius Club. I don't know if you remember this movie, but it is a movie when certain people have a mission of stopping a terrorist attack. And the way they are going to stop that terrorist attack is solving some kind of riddles and some intelligence tests. So they put together certain people which have the highest IQ on the planet. So huge levels of IQ. And they need to solve some big questions and big riddles. And at the end, some of the conclusions that you get out of that movie, obviously, each person can get different conclusions of perspectives on every movie. But to me, it is, I made the following questions is, what if, just the what if question, what if God does not exist? What if love does not exist? And what if life doesn't have any purpose? And I stayed for a while, like meditating on that questions, and I said, well, whatever the answer is, I am here, and my time is limited during this adventure, this life, whatever everyone want to call it. So, what I'm going to do, independently of the answer to that questions, I want to know how this works, and I want to get the best experience while being here. and
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's things that we don't know about, I'm sure. I mean, things happen and we go, wow, that was weird. Or we say, I knew that was going to happen. Or there's just things that are out there that, I'll give you an example. I once was a part of this meditation group. We meditated for years. In one class, somebody brought in, this will tell you how long ago it was, a cassette tape. And on the cassette tape was this guy saying his full name 3 times. And that was it. And so we were to get into a meditative state and then listen to the tape and then just be open to what came into our mind. Nobody in there except the person that brought the tape knew that person. They were way away from where we were, a different state, different part of the United States. And when they asked me, I said, what came to my mind was this guy's been in a very closed place for a long time, and now they're not. And the person that knew them afterwards said, they'd been in a coma for 5 years and they just came out of it. Now, where does that come from?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what came to me, you know.
No, totally agree. And working with your clients, what would you say are the key kind of issues that help people to go through being an egopreneur to an ultrapreneur? Because, you know, we humans are really stubborn, but I mean, our egos can be really huge. And there are some things that kind of are the things that stop us for making that path. What are the key issues that you've been witnessing, and how to convince, also how to convince someone, or what has to happen for someone to voluntarily decide to change and not wait for something bad happen to their lives and don't have any option, any other option that when the doctor says, or you change your lifestyle or you're going to die.
Well, I think that, you know, what I've done is help them feel comfortable and confident that they can be their authentic selves. And it's not becoming authentic, it's being authentic. And to me, authenticity is not about adding things to you, it's getting rid of things that aren't you. So we're programmed, we're brainwashed, we're trained all of our lives, whether it's in school or working for somebody else. So by the time we get to be an adult, we got this big knapsack full of crap that we carry around with us all the time. And every decision we make and every action we take gets filtered through that thing. You know, it's not even conscious to us anymore. So we need to get rid of that stuff that isn't us, first of all. And then I think the biggest thing that stops people from going to where they really want to be is really money or judgment. So I say to them, if you didn't have to worry about money or judgment, what would you be doing differently? And how would you be doing it differently? And I get them to just imagine that. And for some people, that starts them imagining something that they really want. I've had so many people come to and work with me that were really sure that what they were doing is what they wanted to do with their life. And after a while, they decided, no, I don't want to do that. This is not my vision, my dream. This is my parents or somebody that pushed me in this direction. Because what do you really like to do? I mean, doing what you really like to do and being passionate about it doesn't mean that you forget that you live in the material world. You still need to make some money to live, you know.
Yes.
I mean, some people think, oh, I'll just do what I want and money will just fall out of the sky. Well, only if you take action to make it fall out of the sky, right? So when I work with my clients, I help them with looking at the tangible and intangible of business and how they can work together in harmony. Because when they work together in harmony, that's when success really happens. A lot of people will work on the tangible and they won't work on the intangible, or vice versa. Or they'll work on both of them, but they can't show people how they can work together in harmony. And so it's this split screen kind of thing. So that helps in helping them realize that they can do it. I said, it's not so much that you believe you can do it. It's not that you have the money to do it. It's how bad do you want it?
Yes.
Because there's always something we've wanted in our lives really bad, but we were told, no, you can't have it, or you'll never be able to do that. But if it's something we really want, we found some way to get it.
Yes. And related to these same things that obstruct or kind of stop the process of evolution to become an entrepreneur, one of the key things I've been finding with many people the other day, I was talking to some entrepreneur that very successful one, but he was saying like, I want to change because at this moment in my life, I look a lot older than general people in my age. I know that my health is starting to fail, but I don't have time. So because I don't have time, then I can't do anything else. So let's see if my body can hold all this pressure and stress and so on. What, how do you manage to that kind of message that I don't have time?
Well, when I first started working with entrepreneurs, um, I thought if I just get the business plan and for them to get to it, to the ultimate goal, everything would work out. Well, I saw so many people get sick and I saw so many people die trying to get there because it wasn't something that they were enjoying doing. It was the end result was what was going to make them happy, but they weren't happy getting there. And so in my book, I talk about, day-to-day happiness of what you're doing. It's one thing to be passionate about what the end result is, but if you're not having fun doing it, it's going to be detrimental to your life, and you're going to end up. I mean, especially because I've also worked with people that were in corporate America and then they left, and they just look like they've been through a rodeo and lost. I mean,
Yes.
because there's so much that they have to do that isn't really something that they enjoy or have happiness, but they know if they don't do it, they're not going to get that next promotion or whatever. And it's like, but you're killing yourself. And I did that too to myself. You know, doing taxes is a brutal thing because you've got so many things that you have to get done in such a short amount of time. And I was working, 10 hours, seven days a week, and that's brutal. Um, and I got cancer, I got shingles, I got partially paralyzed stomach, and that's when I really dropped doing as many tax returns and did more coaching and mentoring because that was much more rejuvenating, where doing taxes was very draining to my energy.
Oh, totally. And another thing related with all the life experiences and business experiences and working with your clients, the experiences that you've had, could you please share with our audience some of the most relevant lessons learned that you've had both as a human being, as a person, and in business?
Well, I mean, it really started from the beginning of my career and has gone through it. The first thing that really um, challenged me was when I first started working after college. Well, right after college, I worked for a family business for 2 years, but then we realized it couldn't, it couldn't sustain all of us. So I left and I went to work for a junior college here in Colorado, and it was up in the mountains that had two campuses and 8 community ed locations and centralized accounting. And I was the accountant for the college. And it was beautiful. There was deer and elk I could see out of my kitchen window and bald eagles and everything. And it was beautiful. It was in these canyons and stuff. And I like being outside anyway. So that was great. And the guy that hired me said, you're not really qualified for this job, but I'll mentor you for a year and you'll do fine. Well, 2.5 months after that, after he hired me, a new president came in and fired him and wanted to get rid of everybody that he'd hired. But they couldn't get rid of me or the people that were under. I had 5 accounting clerks under me unless they had cause, because they got some money from the state government. But anyway, I knew once he got in, I had no support from the top or the bottom, because he told my accounting clerks that he didn't have to do what I told him to do. And so I had a choice. I could quit and say, well, what chance did I have being there when, I'm 25 years old and the president of the college wants to get rid of me and won't give me any support and won't let the people below me support me. And I felt like, well, I could probably get another job because that's a pretty good justification. Or I could stay. And I already knew that I wasn't qualified. So I didn't know what I didn't know. And how am I going to beat the president of the college? And 5 months into the future was going to be the annual audit by the independent C.P.A.s. And so if they came in and the audit was bad, then I would get fired, and I didn't have really good justification to get a job after that. So everybody I talked to said, yeah, just quit. You can't win that. You can't win that battle. I decided to stay. And I read all of my accounting books from college. I took like 20 years of C.P.A. exams to see, is there something I'm missing that I don't know? I worked my ass off for the next 5 months. I double checked everything that my accounting clerks did and everything that I did. And then the audit came, and I had no idea how it was going. But when it was over, we met in a conference room, and there was the president and his associate, and then the auditors, the head auditors, and me. I'm on one side of the table. And so the president says to the head auditor, how did the audit go? And the head auditor said, great, Nigel did a fantastic job. It's the cleanest audit we've had in years. And the president said, thank you, got up out of his chair and walked out of the room. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought about, those 5 months, why the hell did I do that? What was I thinking? I'm going to be. And 2 things came to me. Number one, I didn't think it was right, even though I knew that's what people did. They'd come in and they'd get rid of the people that had been there, and they'd bring in their own people. I still think good wins over bad. And I didn't think it was right. I said, I haven't done anything wrong, and that was a part of me. Then the other thing that really made me stay was, I said, in the years to come, if I quit, am I going to feel bad about myself? Even if I stayed and I get fired, but I do the best job I can, am I going to feel good about myself? And staying, even if I was fired, but do the best I could because I thought it wasn't right, I'm going to feel better about myself. Because if I quit, I'm always going to think for the rest of my life, what if I hadn't quit?
Yes. Oh, that is amazing, and thank you for sharing this with us, because one, I would like to point this out again for everyone to remember that in the end, good always wins. And it is good to believe that good in the end always wins. But in the other part, it is that even now, with so many options that there are available for, especially for young people and for everyone, but I think about people who are just being graduated from college, and they are having their first jobs, it is like if something does not work, even if it is related to work, if it is related to a couple, if it is related to family, if it is related to a friend, then they say, oh, no problem. There are many people here. There are many opportunities there. There are many other things that I can do. And they just quit. And like it is the most easy thing to do is quitting. But that doesn't help evolving or learning or being a better human being. So thank you for sharing this, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Yes, and just going to the last part of this amazing dialogue, one other thing that I really like when I first met you, no, the second time I met you, it is that I had the opportunity to interact with your wife on an activity on one of your virtual seminars. And for me, it was amazing because I know that you guys work together or have been working together, and you share both being a marriage and being business partners and being together. One of the things I've been finding in the last years is that, for example, when you're a startup founder and you're trying to get some investment, you have an investment round, it is not like a good thing to have your wife or your husband being your co-founder because investors think that is highly risky. What would you say to people in general that it is a real risk to be working with your wife?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and after they did, they both said to me, "Thank you. That helped us with our relationship more than you ever will know." And it made the business better. Most of the time, it's not a good idea because you've got all these different dynamics that are also part of you and the two of you, right? So it's hard not to bring personal things into it or things of the past into it, to use as weapons and stuff. So, yeah, it usually doesn't happen. And the wife I had before the one I have now, that I've had now for 25 years, we probably wouldn't have lasted 2 hours.
Okay, okay.
Our energy we were both very type A and wanted to be in control. And so that would not have worked very well. Susan and I have our chemistry works together, and it's worked really well together. But I think it's kind of like a white buffalo, one in millions.
Yes. No, no, I totally get you because in my own case, also my business partner is my wife, and we started being founders 20 years ago. So at the same time, we started being entrepreneurs or founders here in Mexico, and at the same time, we were married. So, most people told us that you're going to fail in both. No, we are still here, but yes, we are the exception. We understand that, and we are aware of that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's great. Like, she worked with me for 12 years, and then before I sold my CPA practice, which all I sold was the tax part, I took the bookkeeping out because she was doing most of the bookkeeping. So she's had her own business now since 2012, and I've continued with the taxes until I sold it in 2020, and been doing the coaching and mentoring uh, for 25 years.
Okay, no, great. Nigel, it's been really great talking to you. Just one last question that I have for you at this moment, and it is, are you optimistic about the future? Not only your future, but the future in general, because, humanity is facing a lot of strange challenges and issues and problems, and we may not survive as a species. I don't know, but are you optimistic and why?
Well, I think that the whole world is being challenged right now. And I still go back to, I think the good guys win.
Yes.
And I think every once in a while, you know, you have to, you can't take things for granted, and I think a lot of things were taken for granted, that they were doing something in a way that had always been done that way. And for a long time, it wasn't being done that way. And now we're seeing it. But those challenges always make us stronger. And then it's like in my lifetime, I've seen the pendulum swing this way, and then it swings all the way this way. So I think it's really swung over to one side, but usually when that happens, it swings faster over to the other side, gets to that tipping point, and I think it's really close to that tipping point. So I think the future is going to be, the near future is going to be chaotic and very challenging, but I think after that, I think it's going to be very, very productive.
No, totally. And by the way, one of the purposes of having these dialogues with people from different parts of the world, it is that please let's not forget that we need to talk to each other. We need to really get to meet, to know each other, because one thing now with social media, it is that you get the impression of everyone fighting with each other. And that changes a lot when you have the opportunity to actually talk to people and get to meet to people and to hear them and to know about them. And reality is totally opposite to that kind of cage of war or virtual coliseum or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, people are basically what it's all about.
Totally, totally. But Nigel, great talking to you. Thank you for being here, and have
Thank
a
you.
great day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.